How y'all doing today? It's your boy EatRightGuy, and I'm back with another video. And for this video, I'm gonna be giving my thoughts on the keto diet. And for some reason, this diet has gained popularity again all of a sudden. I've been getting a lot of people asking me questions about the keto diet. And like just yesterday, I was part of a question and answer panel at a health fair, and just like clockwork, somebody asked me about the keto diet. So I've been preparing to answer this question. I've been doing a lot of research, and so I'm going to share my insights on this diet. And I'm gonna split this video up in 3 segments. The first, I'm going to talk about the history of the keto diet and how it was created and why it was created. Then I'm going to talk about what is the keto diet and why is it used and what happens in the body. And then lastly, I'm just gonna go over my pros and cons of the keto diet and just finally give my overall opinion on whether you should use it or not. So first, let's start about how the keto diet came about. And so what kind of predated the keto diet was fasting. Fasting has been used for thousands of years to treat all kinds of health elements. And in the early 1900s, they were studying children that had epilepsy and had seizures, uncontrollable seizures, kids that couldn't control seizures through other means. And they found that with starvation or fasting from up to like 3 days, their seizure activity would significantly decrease. And so doing tests on these kids, they found that these kids had high levels of ketone bodies in their blood. So they kind of associate the ketone bodies with the reduction of seizures. But because these children, starving them doing fasting is not ethical, and also can have huge health implications since they're not getting enough calories, they had to find a dietary approach that can be sustained to where these kids are still eating, but it's still producing the same effects of a starvation diet. So after doing a whole bunch of testing, they found that when kids ate a diet that was primarily of fat, so up to 80%, and very minimal carbohydrates, so like less than 5% of their daily calories from carbohydrates, and a moderate amount of protein, they found those same ketone bodies in the blood, and it produced the same beneficial effects for these kids with epilepsy. They weren't having as many seizure episodes. And so that's how the keto diet was created. It was created to treat children with uncontrolled seizures. And so as the years went on, the keto diet kind of died down. It pretty much died down because of you had anti-seizure medications being introduced into the market. And so that was used as the primary treatment for these kids. But then in 1972, a cardiologist named Robert Atkins, he created what everybody know as the Atkins diet. And he used the ketogenic approach to help people lose weight. And so his diet was very high fat, so up to 80% fat, less than 5% carbohydrates, and around 15 to 20% protein. But as his diet was like in 4 different stages. The first week, it was like they really restrict carbohydrates. And as the weeks went on, he kind of added carbohydrates back to the diet. But all in all, his diet was very high in fat and pretty low in carbohydrates. And like people going through his diet, especially the first week, they would notice a lot of weight loss. Little did they know it wasn't from fat, it was actually from water, because of their muscle glycogen stores being depleted. And glycogen actually, which is the storage form of glucose, actually holds water. So that quick weight loss was actually water. So that's pretty much the history of the keto diet and how it came about. Next we can talk about what the keto diet is. And so when we talk about the different macronutrients, you have carbohydrates, protein, and fat. Your carbohydrates are your main energy source for your body, and also the most efficient energy source. So whenever you eat foods that are high in carbs, or just carbs in general, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, your body breaks those carbohydrates down into glucose. Glucose is then taken up into to all your cells with insulin. And once they're in your cells, they're broken down further in a process called glycolysis into ATP, which provides energy through your whole body. And like I said, the carbohydrates are your most efficient energy source. And so with the keto diet, because it's so restricted on carbohydrates and so high in fat, you start using fat and breaking down fat to use as energy instead of breaking down carbohydrates to use as energy. And so once you break down fats, like most of the fats that's in your diet are triglycerides, and triglycerides have two different components. They have a glycerol backbone, and then they have 3 fatty acids attached to it. So the glycerol backbone can be converted into glucose, which will be needed for your brain. The brain is the one organ in your body that only runs by glucose, and the fatty acid components cannot be converted into glucose. They're converted into a substance called acetyl-CoA, which is then converted into ketone bodies. So like with triglycerides, only 10% of it can be converted to glucose. So in that, I'm gonna discuss that later in the video when I talk about some of the pros and cons of this diet. So once your body breaks down the fat or the triglycerides, and most of it is turned to keto bodies, most of your, blood cells can actually use ketones as another means of energy outside of glucose. It's not the most efficient route, but it can happen. And so the thoughts of the keto diet is you're gonna break down the fat in your body and in turn lose weight and use that fat as energy. So that's the purpose of the keto diet. So now we can talk about the pros and the cons of the diet. Because the keto diet is so high in fat and so low in carbohydrates, that means you have to cut out a lot of food groups. So let's say that you're on a 2,000 calorie diet. If only 5% of your calories comes from carbohydrates, I think that comes out to be around 25 grams of carbs a day. And that's like the equivalent of eating 1 medium apple. So with the keto diet, you're gonna have to cut out food groups. You're gonna have to cut out pretty much all fruits. You're gonna have to cut out all whole grains, and you're gonna have to cut out a lot of healthy starchy vegetables such as like corn, sweet potatoes, and things like that. So that's the huge food groups. And so in turns, those food groups right there are the foods that are highest in fiber. So one of the downsides of the keto diet, and one of the things that you will experience, is constipation. And so not only constipation, you have soluble fiber that helps bring down cholesterol levels. So that's one thing. Also, because like I said earlier, the brain can only function with glucose, and because fats do not convert to glucose efficiently, you're gonna experience mental fatigue as well as physical fatigue, because glucose is the primary source of energy. Ketone bodies aren't as efficient. And to give y'all a quick story, about 4 years ago, I competed in a men's physique competition, and I kind of went on a keto diet just to try it out. And I definitely lost a lot of water, got really lean, but that was the worst I ever felt in my life. Like, I definitely felt the mental fatigue, the physical fatigue. I didn't want to do anything but sleep. And then when I went to sleep at night, I was like restless. I kept getting up early in the morning or getting up multiple times throughout the night. I just couldn't get any rest. And I definitely felt that constipation. I was using the bathroom like once every 3 or 4 days. And then once I got off that diet, once the competition was over, I was able to go back to how I am now, going regularly as well. And so let's get back into another con. Because the keto diet is so restrictive on those healthy carbohydrates, most people tend to eat high fatty foods. So fatty meats, butter, eggs, and they use that as their primary source. The Atkins diet told people that they can consume as much as that, as well as processed cheese. And so the thing about these foods are, not only are they high in saturated fat, they're high in dietary cholesterol, and they're high in sodium. And so if your diet consists primarily of that, you're gonna greatly increase your chances of developing cardiovascular disease. And Dr. Atkins himself died of a heart attack. Before he died, he suffered more than one heart attack. He had high blood pressure and he had congestive heart failure. So that tells you something when the inventor of a diet is having all these different health elements. And so because of those reasons that I stated right there, I don't really recommend the keto diet, because I feel like the benefits don't outweigh the risk, especially in terms of weight loss. I do think the ketogenic diet does have a place for kids that have epilepsy, that no other treatment is working for them. There is a lot of research stating that it will help. But at the same time, I feel like these kids need to be closely followed by a doctor, as well as being followed by a dietitian, so we can make sure that these kids are getting all the calories and nutrients they need for normal growth and development. But when it comes to weight loss, there's other healthier ways to lose weight that's not gonna increase your chances of cardiovascular disease, increase your chance of constipation and GI issues, as well as increase your chances of experiencing body fatigue as well as mental fatigue. So that's pretty much my opinion on the ketogenic diet. Hopefully this was informative. If y'all have any more questions, y'all can leave them down in the comment section below. Y'all have a nice day. And if you're a nutrition student or a dietetic intern and you're concerned about passing the RD exam, feel free to join my Facebook group, RD Exam Prep, which will be down in the description. And this is where you can be part of a community that will answer any questions that you may have, as well as I provided free study guides, notes, and practice exams. And while you're at it, follow me on Instagram at EatRightGuy, and visit my website, EatRightGuy.com, where I post weekly blogs on nutrition and dietetics related topics.